here's what's coming up on your horizon. Well, as we begin a new school year, students, parents, and educators all face a fair amount of uncertainty. We begin the new academic year by visiting with new teachers and the challenges they face even getting into the classroom.
The schools aren't sure whether or not they're going to hire. They may not be hired until August or a week after school starts.
Yet the teachers we visited with remain passionate about what they do.
We didn't come for the paycheck, we came for the passion.
We'll examine the major force technology is having in the classroom.
Our limits are only as far as our imagination will go.
And we end our day with some encouraging words from an education advocate.
They're doing something now that they love and they're making a great living doing it, and you can do that too.
Stay with us for Oklahoma Horizon.
Oklahoma Horizon is made possible by Career Tech, a job for every Oklahoman and a workforce for every company. With additional support from the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture, Food, and Forestry.
Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. I'm Ron McClendon. Well, teaching has never been an easy career path, and that's especially the case now in Oklahoma with a teacher shortage and a budget shortfall to boot. So we asked the question, why teach? What drives people, young and old, to forego other more profitable careers and spend their lives educating others? And our Blaine Singletary found us some answers.
With educators and legislators at odds with how Oklahoma's kids should be taught, as well as the way it should be funded, the teaching situation in the Sooner State doesn't paint a pretty picture. But all the doom and gloom hasn't stopped these four newly minted teachers, who were all inspired in some way to take on this challenging profession.
When I was little, I would play school with my friends, and I was always the teacher and they were my students. So that was just always something that came natural to me.
I just wanted to be like my first grade teacher. She was very positive, really made a difference in everyone's lives.
My mother is a kindergarten teacher, and I've seen the way that she's impacted her students, and I want to do the same for my own.
Since middle school, I worked at church doing church camp and vacation Bible school, and everyone always told me I needed to be a teacher one day, so I just want to be someone that inspires others, I guess.
Rachel Berkey, Hillary Webb, Lucy Demon, and Tara Weatherford are recent graduates of OSU's Human Development Family Sciences program. And they've not lost their resolve to become educators, despite this harsh reality for Oklahoma teachers.
My dad, actually, he says, I'm paying more for you to go to school than you're ever gonna make. Are you sure this is what you wanna do? You have to have money to live. And he's right, but I just want to do something that I love.
It's not about the money for us, it's about something that we're passionate about.
And this lifelong passion is running headfirst into reality, one that has affected each of them in different ways as they enter the workforce. According to Oklahoma Watch, any of these four could expect to make around $31,000 to $35,000 as a starting salary in the Sooner State. But go across the Lone Star state line, and they could make nearly $20,000 more. That's the difference between being well off and just getting by, and why Rachel says she's accepted a job in San Antonio.
That is a big reason why I'm moving. Not because I don't feel like I have any other option, but just I want to have a good life. I didn't want to have to worry about paying my rent or paying my bills.
But Lucy and Hillary, who have accepted jobs within Oklahoma, are not letting the fact that they'll be earning much less discourage them.
It's kind of hard to hear, but at the same time, I love the job that I just signed with. I loved the principal, I love the assistant principal. Starting out, I think it's a really good choice for me right now.
It is a little scary being on my own and going to be fending for myself, but I think if this is what's meant to be, then I'm gonna make ends meet and it's gonna be a great experience.
But at the time we spoke to her, Tara had not yet landed a job. All she'd been told was,
wait till this summer, wait till July, we'll see. I keep hoping that the money will come through, and I keep thinking that in August they'll be desperate for teachers again, so that's what I keep telling myself.
It's this advice that Career Services Coordinator Michelle Crew keeps telling these students. Believe it or not, this situation is not uncommon this late into the summer.
It is extra challenging for those students who are looking for positions in their spending from maybe April to August in the job search and not being able to get any kind of interviews because the schools aren't sure whether or not they're going to hire. They may not be hired until August or a week after school starts. That's a very common thing in Oklahoma.
Crew told us it's about this point in late summer that Oklahoma schools begin calling her to see if she has any teachers available. But depending on the subject, she's not always able to oblige.
We have some amazing programs. Our science and math education programs to recruit students to go into those fields. So we're getting more and more students interested in teaching science and math, but it's still not anywhere where it will handle the shortage in those areas in Oklahoma.
Some young teachers may feel uncomfortable with moving to a place they've never been before, and on the other hand, the salaries offered in other states make Oklahoma not as competitive. So with this catch-22 playing out in the state's education system, why is anyone becoming an Oklahoma teacher at all?
We didn't come for the paycheck, we came for the passion.
We went out to Career Tech's Young Professionals Meet and Greet in Bricktown. Here, plenty of fresh teachers, like Rachel Snyder, who teaches cosmetology at Autry Tech, took a break from preparing for the next school year and took an opportunity to connect with their colleagues, many of which have left jobs in their industry to teach it.
We all know the industry makes quite a bit more money. We don't leave industry jobs and come to education for the money. We come because we passionately seek to educate others about what we love.
Ask any of these teachers and you'll hear the same thing. It's a sometimes intangible passion that's driven them to devote their lives to this line of work.
I wanted to make a difference in the industry of truck driving. As a driver, I used to gripe about the new drivers all the time and the lack of skill that they had. And then this opportunity came up and I thought that'd be really great for me to be able to get into the industry at the ground level.
And while they are something to keep an eye on, they're not letting looming budget cuts get them down.
I think it's important that we continue to build those relationships with our students and to continue to help them get the skills that they need to join the workforce.
The stage for this school year has been set. Now it's up to educators and legislators to figure out how best to leverage the teacher's passion to continue building our future. Again, Michelle Crew.
Watching other people's joy, seeing them succeed, can be an amazing feeling. And I think being able to help somebody get there, you're giving them tools to be successful in life, and so a little bit of their success is your success. It's a wonderful, wonderful feeling to be a part of that.
Now when we return, kicking off the new school year with a lot of excitement despite some uncertainties.
You're watching Oklahoma Horizon with Rob McClendon. Weekly insight into your changing world.
This year, our theme is making a difference. And as we all know, the career and technology education system contributes significantly to our state's economic success and our quality of life. Well, it was my pleasure to take part in the 49th Annual Career Tech Summer Conference. Each year, teachers, counselors, administrators, and staff members from across the Career Tech system prepare for the new school year while also honoring those who've made a lasting impact on countless lives. This year, the top recognition, called the Francis Tuttle Award, named for the founder of the Career Tech system, went to Phil Wall, who served 42 years as an instructor, campus director, assistant superintendent, and superintendent of Central Technology Center in Drumright. Express Employment Professionals also recognized 4 Career Tech employees with cash awards totaling $20,000. Top statewide recognition went to Mary Foxworth, a literacy and academic instructor at Tulsa Technology Center, who received a $10,000 award for Teacher of the Year.
It's just like a dream. It's what you've worked for all your life. It's kind of like becoming the NFL Player of the Year in education.
Foxworth, a 42-year educator nominated for the award by her co-workers and students, was selected for making significant contributions towards innovative programs that are improving and promoting career and technology education, something that Express founder and CEO Bob Funk says helps our economy.
These teachers are extremely flexible. When companies need help and they need employees in certain categories, they're willing to design the programs and help each company to fulfill their needs. And so it's extremely important as we grow our companies in state and as we attract others from out of state that the career tech teachers do a great job, and they do what we would like for them to do, and that is to train great students.
We'll also recognize at this year's Career Tech Summer Conference with cash awards was practical nursing instructor Dustin Hicks as Post-Secondary Teacher of the Year. Marketing education instructor Natalie Jordan won Outstanding New Teacher of the Year, while Laura Manahan, an administrative assistant and data analyst at Francis Tuttle Technology Center, received a $2,500 award for Outstanding Support Staff Member. Well, joining me now in studio is Oklahoma Career Tech State Director Marcy Mack. Well, why bring all these educators together to start off the school year?
One of our greatest assets in developing Oklahoma's workforce is in the people who provide the educational opportunities for students to help them be successful in education, in the workplace, and in life.
So this year's theme was making a difference. How much of a difference does Career Tech make?
Career Tech makes an exceptional difference. It makes an exceptional difference for our more than 6,700 companies that we get the opportunity to serve each year in more than our 500,000 enrollments that we have in a year. Many touch points that we have in our comprehensive schools and our technology centers, and also in our skill centers with a population of individuals who are allowed the opportunity to obtain technical skills, so when they transition back into our communities, into the workplace, that they have the ability to have a sustainable wage and move on with their life and be a part of the workforce. So the ability and the making a difference that Career Tech does, it's across the board, it's in multiple facets, and we get the opportunity to explore new facets every day and touch people's lives.
You know, I had the opportunity to visit with a lot of those instructors, and the one thing that I came away with from talking to all of them was a single word, and that was passion.
Absolutely. Passion to be an educator, passion to be a part of the education system. It's not about their work, their concern. When you talk to an educator, and even in the general session when we had the opportunity to hear from 3 exceptional students who talked about the concern of their instructors and how their instructors help them to move them forward. That passion that individuals have, all of the teachers and educators that were recognized, they have that passion to make a difference in others' lives and help to move individuals forward, help them to provide the resources that they need to be successful.
All right, thank you so much. Career Tech State Director Marcy Mack.
Still to come on Oklahoma Horizon, putting attitude back in education.
I think this can be the greatest generation in our country's history.
But first, social media in the classroom and beyond.
Well, since the beginning of civilization, the best technology tends to win out. Sometimes it can take a while, but eventually even late adapters come around to doing things differently. And one place where that has become increasingly evident is with social media and the classroom. Joining me now is our new social media coordinator and our same old Courtney May.
Thank you, Rob. Well, when it comes to social media forums, every generation has a different opinion. Yet more than 50% of all Americans are on a social networking site. Sounds like a lot, but when you compare that statistic to the more than 90% of millennials who are on social media, you realize there's a disconnect. Millennials grew up in a connected world, and the generations before them experienced life before computers existed. I talked to social media expert and professional speaker Crystal Washington about the positives and negatives that come with a world that's more connected than ever before. What do you think is the most valuable social media platform that a young professional can have?
I definitely think the most valuable of the social media platforms would be LinkedIn, and that's only because the culture of the network is business. It's all professional. And so if you're trying to connect with scholarship directors or internship coordinators or hiring managers, that's the place where you're going to find them, and you're going to be able to find them by title and company.
And how can someone go about marketing themselves on social media and really finding their brand? And what are some do's and don'ts for social media?
When it comes to marketing yourself on social media, I think the number one thing is being aware of the images that you're putting out. Sometimes, especially with younger people, we have fun, we can do crazy things, that's great, but make sure that you're careful of the images that you project. Doesn't mean that you can't show your personality. It does mean that we have to think about, would a hiring manager appreciate that? The other thing would be making sure that we actually sell ourselves. Talk about the other scholarships that we've received or some of the nonprofit activities that we're involved in, our community service, showing our awards. When it comes to do's and don'ts, do obviously project that positive image, talk about the things that you've accomplished, your goals. Do not mistake social media for a journal. It is not a diary, it is not a therapist. And so we have to be very aware that we not give away too much or the wrong information.
And that's the thing, is I feel like social media can be such a positive thing and to market yourself and brand yourself, but so many people view it as a negative thing. So how do we get that out of the older generation's head that it really is moving in a positive direction?
Well, I think what happens is when we're looking at some of the older generations, it's natural to be fearful of something that you're not completely understanding of, right? And so what we have to understand is that social media is a lot like money. It's neutral. You hand a large amount of money to someone who maybe has some issues, they're probably going to multiply those issues. You hand it to someone who has their stuff together and has a giving heart, they're going to be a blessing to other people with it. Social media works much the same way. It is a neutral tool. So in terms of the value we get out of it, whether it produces something wonderful or something horrible, it's what we do with that tool.
And as far as generations, how does your message change when you're talking to an older group versus a younger group of maybe high school students?
Well, it changes dramatically because perspective is different. And so with high school students, I don't tend to have to sell them on the merits of social media. Now it's a matter of showing them, one, how to take down the stuff they shouldn't have put there in the first place probably, and then showing them how to sell themselves and some of the benefits. When I'm talking to older people, it's really a matter of making them understand that they can take all this knowledge they've accumulated and their relationship building skills that they have already mastered in real life and apply this in an online format, so then their reach is even further and it gives them more opportunities and they can help a lot more people as well.
And what would you say to maybe an older person who just does not want to get social media? How can that be beneficial to them? Because there's a disconnect between the older generation and the younger generation that's so connected. How can we bridge that gap?
Well, when it comes to older people that just say, I do not want to use social media, first off, I have to respect their perspective and ask them why. Now, if you're retired, you're 70 years old, you're not in the workforce, you know, maybe you don't need to use a lot of social media, although Facebook will help you keep up with some of your family members, right? But for those that are putting up this block, many people in the workforce that are older, they put up a block because they're fearful. And so it's a matter of showing them how using social media can make them more competitive. We know that if there's one job opening at a company and there's 5 applicants, we're going to have at least 4 losers. That's the only way to put it. In fact, we might have 5 if the CEO's nephew needs a job. They might all lose. You get that? And so showing them that using social media, they can start to build connections with those decision makers ahead of time. If they have a company, they can use social media to acquire clients and customers. So really what I have learned, especially when talking with boomers and even some traditionalists, so that's the generation before them, is if you show them the practical applications, how it's going to make them more efficient, effective, or connected, then they open up.
Okay, and one last thing. I know you mentioned the statistics of how many people were getting jobs through connections made with social media.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. So JobVite did a survey, and what they found is they surveyed Americans to find, you know, if they found jobs through social media, and if so, what social networks helped them gain their place of employment. And what they found was that 8 million Americans found their jobs using Twitter. 10.2 million Americans found their current jobs using LinkedIn, and the one that it kind of took everybody by surprise, 12 million Americans found their jobs using Facebook. So more through Facebook than LinkedIn. And what we can gain from that, or what we can glean from this information, is the fact that, one, Facebook is much larger than LinkedIn, number one, but also Facebook is a little bit more about personal connections. And it can be for business, but when you're connected to someone on Facebook, they're called a friend. When you're connected to them on LinkedIn, they're called a connection. And so when you think about a job opening at your company, you say, oh, I have a friend that might be a really good fit for this. No one ever says I have a LinkedIn connection. And so oftentimes, again, we talked about the neutrality of tools and how we use them. You can use Facebook strictly for business and connect almost like you would at a networking event with only business professionals. So our limits are only as far as our imagination will go, and really our ability to focus on what our goals are and use social media according to our goals.
So cool. And it's free. I mean, that's the major thing, is so many people pay for website design and pay for all this stuff, but social media is a free marketing tool for yourself.
It is free, but I like to tell people this too. It's free and it's not free, because our time has value. And so it becomes a little bit of less than an asset when we become sucked in. So if you're getting on these social networks and you're not setting goals, and you're not using apps to kind of help set timers so that you get off at a certain time, then it can become a time suck. So there's a limit. Let's give our boomers some credit for this, because some of them are probably watching us right now like, yes, that's what I'm saying. But set a timer, spend as much time as you need to accomplish your goals, and it can be an amazingly valuable free tool.
And how important is it, do you think, to find that balance? Yes, we need to be on social media, I mean, for the most part, but having that balance of real connections and communication versus always being on your phone?
I think it's extremely important to have balance. I probably stick out a little bit more from Gen Ys, and especially from techie people, because I'm a big fan of, I love technology, I love social media, I love apps, extensions, all that stuff. But at least once a quarter, I take a technology-free day. And mine is probably extreme for most people. It's no cell phone, it's no radio, it's no TV, no laptop, nothing that can suck in my attention. And I spend the day reading or at the beach or whatever else. And so I think that when we spend a little bit of time away from technology, it resets us. So then when we get back on, we're more strategic. And I also think balance is important, because the people around us deserve our attention. They deserve what one of my mentors calls delighted attention, where you're actually giving them all of your focus. You can't do that if you're hunting Pokemon while you're talking to someone. You can only do one or the other. And so I would encourage people, the next time that you're sitting at a dinner table with your friends or family or a restaurant or whatever, or even if you all are all waiting around for an event, put your phone away. Spend some time talking to people. Technology, extremely important, but we have to have that balance.
Horizon is at your fingertips. Join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to catch the segments you may have missed and our latest new content as it happens.
So how do today's instructors keep students engaged? Well, our next guest has some definite ideas. Andy Masters is an expert on generational differences in education and in the workplace. And I visited with him on stage after he spoke to career tech educators. Andy, how dramatically are the demands on our education system, how dramatically are they changing?
Well, it's incredible versus education of even 10, 20, certainly 40 years ago. You're thinking about first an incredibly more diverse population and also the technology standards that have to increase. We're talking technology in the classroom, not to mention the competition inside and outside of the United States. So people can actually get their education online and so forth. So it's just amazing the differences, and hopefully we can find a way to keep up with it.
So we have these students that have more choices, but also more demands. How do you motivate them?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is I'm a big believer in role models, let's just face it. And so we have to find success stories for students that, hey, someone in your seat 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, they're doing something now that they love and they're making a great living doing it, and you can do that too, because there's so many more opportunities than there were just 10, 20, 40 years ago, and these students need to grasp that and understand the amazing things that are available to them.
Now, we often hear that, well, this generation, they're X. What do you have to say about that?
You know, I think that every generation's had their critics, and unfortunately, there's some animosity towards today's generation of students. All they do is text on the time, and they have the poor work ethic that a lot of people think they have, and so forth. But you know, I really believe I joke that even the baby boomers, well, they had a lot of critics as well, and they turned out to be pretty good. So I think this can be the greatest generation in our country's history, and we have to show our teachers and our administrators that you can provide the fuel for these guys to take us to the next level of the amazing things they can have in technology and their bright ideas and so forth. And this can be a wonderful generation, and I hope everybody can get behind them.
Andy, thank you for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Rob. Great to be here.
Want to see more stories like this? All our segments are streaming on our YouTube channel at Oklahoma Horizon TV.
Is education worth the price? Next time on Oklahoma Horizon, we look at rising school costs and what that means for millennials.
One thing we don't have is too many college graduates, but one thing we may have too many of is too many 22-year-old college graduates with no work experience. That's not a particularly powerful combination.
On Oklahoma Show for the Heartland, Oklahoma Horizon. Well, thanks for including us as part of your day. I'm Rob McClendon. Hope to see you back here next week.